Hello everyone, this is Beastly Eel here, and in today's video we have to talk about the season premiere of Secret Invasion. Now, I say season premiere, but realistically it's obviously the series premiere as well. So we have the very first episode, it is called Resurrection, and we are introduced to a lot, and we saw a lot in this episode. So for those of you who have not seen this and do not like spoilers, then I highly recommend you pausing the video, watching the first episode, and then coming back to listen to the rest of this. But if you don't care, or you've already seen it, welcome. One of the big things we have to talk about is the fact that we start off this episode, or series even, with the fact that we have Ross, who was a CIA agent, who was big in Black Panther. He was in actually both Black Panthers, and he was the one who was really a big ally with Black Panther and Wakanda in general. And we're under the impression after Black Panther 2 that he's under arrest for treason of him feeding information into um, the Wakandans. So this is where it gets weird. So we have Ross in Moscow who is hunting down this guy who supposedly thinks that all these different terrorist groups individually are attacking national large countries because they want war to ensue against each other so they then can take over the planet. Now, what this guy thinks is that each one of these terrorist cells are run by a scroll. Now, for those of you who saw Captain Marvel and WandaVision, I think that's it, will know that scrolls are pretty much on Earth. Let's be honest. They're a group of, they're a species of aliens that are able to shapeshift, and their natural bodies are green and elf-like looking, or troll-looking, sorry, is a better way of putting it. We were introduced to Talos and a bunch of other scrolls that were on Earth, and we now realize that there are even more. So what happens is Ross tries to figure out what's going on. They get into a fight between each other. Um, Ross and this guy. Ross shoots the guy, and he dies, and he does not transform into a scroll. And that's when Ross leaves. While this is going on, he requests a how do I put this? He requests like a pickup, and Maria Hill is the one that responds and goes to pick him up. This guy is now being chased by somebody we don't know who it is. They get into a fight. He's running away. He tries to jump to the building next door after climbing several stories, misses, hits the ground, and dies. And it turns out that this Ross at the very least, was a scroll. And it turns out the guy chasing him was Talos from Captain Marvel. And Maria Hill meets him and everything else, and they realize that there's a huge problem. That's when he asks Maria Hill to contact Fury one last time to see if he'll come. Well, what happens? Nothing other than Nick Fury himself coming to planet. They meet together, they're realizing there's a problem, and they got to get their stuff together. Now, this Nick Fury is different. Now, not Skrull different, but different. In the sense of an older Nick Fury who has seen a lot, done a lot, been through a lot, and isn't sure what to do now. So the idea is to get rid of all the scrolls off planet to kind of make sure that they have their little own home. And it's during this time that Talos really talks about not only that Nick Fury's different after the blip, but the fact that a lot of scrolls took his leaving as an insult. So part of the whole thing was a lot of the scrolls took it personally that what's his name, Nick Fury left, and now have created this new group where they want to not just be a part of a planet, but completely take it over. So their plan is, supposedly, or the thought is, to get rid of all the humans on the planet so the Skrulls can take over the world. basically. Have no interruptions, problems whatsoever. Now, one of the big things that happens here is Nick Fury gets kidnapped by what I am assuming is the English version of Shield, um, or the English version of the CIA. And basically, this woman's talking to him and everything else, and she's like, Fury, you obviously have gotten weak in your old age because you allowed my men to take you. And he goes, you're right, I allowed them to because I wasn't surprised by anything, and I wanted to talk to you specifically. So a lot of this back and forth where who was actually in control of everything. And Nick Fury actually sets up a camera in there and everything else that I don't think she's aware of. And he's trying to get information out of her on what does she know about the break-in in Moscow and the bombs that have been taken. And she, to at least Nick Fury, is stating that she has no idea what he's talking about, and clearly he needs to retire and give up his whole thing. So he leaves, and what happens is he listens to their conversations, as any good spy would, and he finds out he was right, she was lying. They do know about the bombs being taken, and they think that they're going to let him off in Moscow rather soon. What we then find out now too is a lot of this other stuff is going, so a lot is going on in this episode, let me tell you. And I do apologize if seems like a lot. It is really difficult to kind of portray it the way they did in the show because they did such an excellent job. And but a lot of stuff was happening. So like if you didn't know what was going on fully or didn't know who everyone was, you're gonna miss a lot. So what we find out is Talos's daughter that we see in Captain Marvel is now part of the Resistance, who is trying to make Earth a new scroll utopia. They have their own little base, 500 plus strong. They have this new leader who, to my knowledge, is going to be revealed as the Super Scroll based on what we saw in the trailer. But as of right now, we do not know that about this person, or this scroll, I should say. And so everyone in this compound is a scroll, and they're trying to basically deal with their problems. So they get intel on what's going on, and that's when they kind of figure out, well, they kind of figure out what's going on in the best way possible. Talos meets up with his daughter, and he finds out that she is part of the resistance. He lets her know that her mother is dead and that she wouldn't want her to be a part of this. And that resonated with her enough to meet with her father privately and explain the plan that's going on with the scrolls. That she's going to be walking around with two bombs. They're going to be given, although she never specifies what's going to happen. She says she's going to be walking in with backpacks, or they're going to be walking in with backpacks, and the fact that she's going to know which ones they are, and she's going to spray paint them with fluorescent paint, so that way you can see them in thermal light. And she tells them the location. So they all go there. This is Maria Hill, Fury, and Talos. And Talos and Fury are trying to figure out where the bombs are, and they start separating. What happens is I'm saying it quickly, but Nick Fury actually stops looking for the bombs because he finds out that there's somebody watching him. And although he's not 100% sure of what's going on, he has a pretty good idea that the person that's watching him is a scroll, first off, but he feels has got to be the leader of the scrolls. So what happens is Talos and Maria Hill actually get the backpacks, and what they find out is that there were no bombs in the backpacks at all. They were fake, and they were um, a diversion. And that's when this Super Scroll, I'm putting that in quotes because we're not 100% sure that's what he is, lights up the bombs and they go off. While there's all this confusion, Nick Fury goes up to Maria Hill, and he shoots her several times in the gut. At least once, I thought more than once personally. And it turns out that Nick Fury was not Nick Fury. It was actually the leader of the Skrulls, and that's when Nick Fury goes over to kind of help Maria Hill, but it's too late. and we assume she's dead. So, some things that we don't know is factual or not yet. Is Ross was Ross ever a human to begin with, or was he always a Skrull? We don't know. Um, that's a big one right there. The other one is Maria Hill dead? Because that's a big thing right there in the sense of like trying to figure out, is it a Skrull? Is it really her? Um, did they happen to think about this in like in their meetings where this might happen? Like, what are they going to do now? Type of thing. Um, I don't actually have an answer for you on that one. I would like to think that they didn't kill her off, but I have a feeling she's dead, dead. Um, then we also have the fact that Talos's daughter betrayed Talos again, so she can't be trusted. So she's gonna stay on the side of the Skrulls and stay on the terrorist side. And Nick Fury is really unsure of what he needs to do, which is a whole nother problem that needs to be resolved. And he needs to pull himself together and figure out exactly what he needs to do to stop this threat. Honestly, I have an idea of where this series is going to go in the sense of like we're going to get to a point where there's some sort of compromise in some sort of capacity with the Skrulls and planet Earth, but I don't know necessarily how it's going to get there. I feel like there's going to be a lot of death before we get there. I mean, we already had one major character killed, potentially two, and I don't know where physically it's going to go. Like, how big of this invasion is it going to be? I think we're going to have to wait and see. Overall, thought this was a great first episode. It is definitely a spy movie, or spy show, I should say. So if that's the kind of espionage type stuff you like, then you're gonna love this personally. For myself, not my forte. That being said, I very much enjoyed it, and I'm not a really big spy espionage kind of guy, so it works in my favor. Let me know if you guys have seen this episode. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Did you like it? Did you not? And why? And as always, if you like the content you see, please like and subscribe below. Other than that, this is going to be Beastly Eel signing out. Have a great night.